Hey, this is Dave from metalepidemic.com. Thank you for checking out our YouTube video. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you like this type of content, and we hope you enjoy the review. What is happening, people? Dave here from Metal Epidemic, back with another album review. For this review, Duncan Kyle and myself have been checking out the new album from Ghøstkid. The band's new self-titled album will be released on November 13th via Century Media Records. For those who have never heard Ghøstkid, this is the new project of former Eskimo Callboy vocalist Sebastian Sushi Beisler. Not sure how you pronounce his surname.
Scottish.
Scottish. Don't know.
Scottish.
He has been joined by, and again, apologies for brutal and your surnames here.
Favourite review we've done yet. Come on, Dave, tell us who's in the band.
Steve Joachim on drums, as well as Danny Goldner on guitar, and Stanislaw Zweil. I'm not. Again, I'm so sorry.
Who was it? What was the second name? Sorry, what was the second name you read out?
Steve Joachim?
I hardly knew him.
Okay. Right, you're cancelled for 2020. Just get off.
I didn't realise this is what they meant by cancel culture.
Okay, so Steve on drums, Danny on guitar, and Stanislaw on bass.
That's what I would have done.
Both of whom played in To the Rats and Wolves.
Uh-huh.
This is a very new project for Sushi. Only started writing for this album in 2019. At that point, he said he was inspired by a steady diet of Marilyn Manson, Fever 333, and Bring Me the Horizon. All of whom inspired him to meld together sundry sonic shades, touching on pop, metal, industrial, and a hint of trap. Renowned producer Guy Van Hoff, who has worked with Rammstein and Emigrate, came on board to hammer into shape what would become Ghøstkid's self-titled Century Media debut. So, this was one that we were looking forward to. I want to say we have talked about this on previous podcasts.
This is one of my most anticipated releases for the rest of the year. So
there
this
we go.
is where it came up first. So.
Well, you have certainly been blowing up my WhatsApp about Ghøstkid and this new album over the last few months. Mm-hmm. So Duncan, I'm going to let you kick us off because I'm keen to hear if it lived up to your expectations.
I'm such a fucking mark for this sort of music. I'm honestly such a fucking mark for it. It feels slightly sad that Sushi jumped out at Eskimo Callboy just before they released maybe the greatest song of 2020 and Hyper. No, I mean, I heard, I'm trying to think, I think it was Supernova was the first single. It was either Supernova or Start a Fight.
I think it was Start a Fight, yeah.
Like a couple of months ago. And the first overwhelming thing that struck me was this sounds a bit like a goth Bring Me the Horizon. Certainly the later sounding Bring Me the Horizon, not the earlier sounding stuff. That's essentially what it sounded like. And then Supernova dropped just before we did our list of like 5 albums, and I knew it was coming out in November, and I'd been interested to see if the rest kind of lived up to it. There was a pre-order, so at that point This Is Not Hollywood had dropped. The one with Tim Hendrix, we're going to get into this in a second. This is the only thing that really confused me about this release is the fact that the same song is played twice with 2 different vocalists. And it's almost as if they offered the part to one vocalist who couldn't make it, so they offered it to a different vocalist, and then the first one showed up a couple of days late, and they were like, "Oh fuck, we're gonna need to record it again." It's kind of it's such a weird choice to do because essentially it's exactly the same composition underneath. Yeah. It's just a different guest vocalist. Mm-hmm. And I was racking my brain. I can't think of any other release that's ever done that. Like ever. It was so weird. Kind of reminded me of, there was a time that me and Dave went to see Boys to Men play live. That's right.
Shit.
Metal enough to go and see Boys to Men, who opened and closed with the same song. Yeah. And I'm like that. I've never seen a band. Yeah, they opened and closed with the same song. the same song. So much so that I thought they'd forgotten they'd played their set and they were about to do it again. Because Age will do that to you. Age will do that to you. It's a cruel mistress. No, I am a complete mark for Ghøstkid. Everything they're doing here is pretty much what I like. First, let's talk about the production, which is fucking massive. Like, every single song on this sounds like it's carrying like the weight of the world on its shoulders. Like every time there's a bit where it like pummels down, it's just fucking ferocious, right? So like that for a beginning is a heavy fucking album for an album which is as poppy as it is, and trust me when I say it is very fucking poppy. If you thought, I mean, this is a guy from Eskimo Callboy, so he knows how to sing a pop hook, so to speak. I really like the mix of they are a German. I mean, their class is a German band, but there is a bit of the Scandinavian about them in terms of when, like, you know what I mean. I could hear those specific things flagging in from what I would class as the ones that the kind of more gothic sounding groups of the kind of Nordic countries are definitely in there as well. I think they clearly know how to write a hook. These are ostensibly pop songs that are really fucking heavy, as opposed to being metal songs that have been made more poppy, and that to me works as a formula there. It's produced within an inch of its life. I enjoyed the guest appearances that you get, like Supernova features guest vocals from Marcus Bischoff, and he sings the second verse, and the second verse is visceral as fuck, just like really fucking horribly gnarly sounding vocals. But they're mixing with different elements here. You mentioned trap, there's a bit of that in there, especially on This Is Not Hollywood, which I think works well. There's a lot of diversity here for my ears. So yeah, this lived up to my expectations fully. I have been singing the choruses non-stop since I come out. I love the riffs. There's nothing pretentious at all about this release, and maybe that's where it might put off some people that are expecting something more, because this doesn't have the quirk of an Eskimo Callboy. You know what I mean? This doesn't have the techno and all the rest. It's almost as if he's kind of taken that techno element and went goth. Goth is what I need. And there is a bit of Manson in there as well. There's definitely a bit of Marilyn Manson in the vibe and the tone. You look at the music videos, it's certainly in there. At weird times, it reminded me of like a really, really, really kind of poppy kind of Death Star. Don't know if you remember them. There was a bit of that in there. Yeah, like I said before, I am maybe the least. I'm the sort of person that you don't want to come to if you don't want to buy skew on this one, because this is. I've listened to this, telling Kyle before you arrived for the recording, Dave. I've easily listened to this 20 times, and I will listen to it 20 more. This is such a fucking easy listen, even though it is ridiculously heavy. There's a bit where I think it's the verse on Supernova has and we've mentioned them on a different recording tonight. You know the Just So You Know by American Head Charge. Mm-hmm. You know, like it's got that the guitars moving up and down, like that's what it kind of sounded like, but slowed right down, and just if you're not fucking moshing your head on that, there's something wrong with you. Like, it's just got this fucking it's amazing music to drive to, or sit to, or walk to, or sleep to, or play video games to. It's just great. I thought it was. To me, I'm a shill, I'm a mark, I totally admit it, but Ghøstkid totally lived up to my expectations and more. It's almost too easy to listen to. So yeah.
Nice.
Sorry.
High praise from Duncan.
Yep, this is
Kyle,
all over the fucking place on this one, I can tell right now. Kyle has shook his head about 6 times while I've been speaking, and not in the way where he's like, damn, Duncan's on form tonight, boy. I said he is talking shit, and let me go.
I'm going to go to Kyle next. I want to know what Kyle's want to say.
Oh,
Kyle,
man.
tell
All
us.
the things you just said, I really, really, really wanted to agree with before I heard this album. I was looking
Kyle
forward
did not
to it
like
so
this,
much.
Dave. Dave's like
I-
shocked.
Yeah, I mean, I like. Okay, I live in Norway, right? And we have this letter that's extra in the alphabet with the O with the slash in it. It's right? It sounds like So when I first I was like, Ghøstkid, cool. All right, this is a Norwegian band. No, they are German. Or one of them is German. And I was like, okay, fine. So they've done that for style. And then they've done it on every freaking O on the entire album. It's like, this is not Hollywood.
New metal is new metal is fuck, cool. Kyle. You should love this. Now we were conned that they are backwards.
I mean, I've got nothing wrong with slashing things in half. But this was a bit over. Anyway, that was like point one. Like, why did you do that? Okay, it's an aesthetic thing. Fine, right. And the second thing I've written down is, do you like Marilyn Manson? Do you wish Marilyn Manson was your daddy? Like.
Are you asking me? Because yes, I do.
I mean, most of us do, but I mean, this one is like, whoa, there's a lot of Marilyn Manson in here, and some pendulum. Some of those vocal like rises and falls is pendulum. Just out and out. They listened to what's that album called? In Color.
Yeah, it was like that's that album that came out like 12 years ago, and
they released a song like they've
got an album coming out and they have not changed their sound in 12 years.
I know. I was like, this is the same thing, guys. Most anticipated album of never anyway. So yeah.
Ghøstkid.
They love, and then they had trap, and they had like a little dubstep fill in there too, and that's about the moment I was like, this is hilarious. There's no sincerity or seriousness in this release at all, is it? This is just pure fun all the way through. And I mean, like, on that kind of thing, I love it. But on all the other things, I'm just like, this could have been a really good, serious album too, if you know what I mean. Like, if they just toned some of the toned some of that stuff down, it would have been like really banging. But I mean, I get where they're coming from. The lyrics are hilarious. Like that song, what's it called? Something about start a fight. I was just like listening to that. I was like, what the fuck am I listening to? How is this such a great riff with those fucking lyrics? You know, it's just like, what the hell?
I don't know about you guys, but when I listened to "This Is Not Hollywood," what I thought I was going to say is, "This is not Hollywood. This is Berlin. This is Berlin, Germany." That's my German
Having been
accent,
to both places, I can tell you can definitely hear it's not Hollywood.
No.
But the mix of genres is really good. Like, the heavy is heavy, and the trap is definitely trap. There's no, like, pretending or anything. And I love the mix of pop. I don't mind a bit of pop in my music, you know. I love David Bowie, and I like Ghost. There's nothing wrong with a bit of pop if it's done right. Some of this was not done right. I feel like some of it was too, like, engineered to appeal to the people that like that kind of thing, instead of mixing it in because you like it. That's just how it sounded to me. That's how it felt when it came in. It was like, you've got like a trap intro or trap.
This is a producer's album. I would agree with that. The producer has had a huge. You said in your description there about him hammering out the songs. That's the producer's all over this, crafting this to make it sound as conventionally pop and structure as possible. You can totally hear that. Yeah, that just works for me though.
Yeah. I mean, it works and everything. It just feels a bit too. I mean, when I say engineered, I mean it's like made to appeal to the people, the fans of those genres,
right? Instead
of including a bit of that genre, like Ghost would do. They include pop in their rock and roll because it works, and they like that music, and it works for them. You know, it's like I keep saying about Ghost, they're just ABBA with more Satan, but it really, really works.
Totally works. That's why Dave hates them. That's why Dave hates them.
I know he hates him, and I will say I love Ghost in front of his face as many times as I possibly can.
I love him as well, Kyle.
I also love death metal, don't hate me.
I hate ABBA as well, though, so maybe that.
I mean, to be honest,
ABBA?
I fucking hate ABBA.
Yeah,
how can you hate ABBA?
Fucking shit.
Like this.
They literally wrote the happiest songs. Every song is the happiest song ever written. We were doing top 5
They're
happy
Swedish
songs.
And they wrote a song about Waterloo. Where did they get the fucking balls, you know?
Yep. Yeah. Eurovision Song Contest winners more than once.
Yeah.
Wear that like a badge of fucking honour.
Says it all.
It says everything, doesn't it?
Yep.
Right. So
poor Duncan.
Yep.
So I don't know. I'm on the fence about this album. I really want to love it, and then there's some stuff that I can't get over. Like the production is huge, and I feel overproduced because obviously with a big label and a big producer, it's going to be. There's like the metal is too clean, like I mentioned before on reviews and stuff. It's like the metal and everything. It doesn't have that hair or the edge or anything. It's just like, okay, you got a heavy guitar. Although it did sound really heavy. It really did. It got heavy, but then there was always that little bit of something missing that is always missing on these overproduced albums. And that was a bit surprising considering the people that the producer had worked with, like Rammstein and all that stuff. So, but I mean, I did enjoy listening to all those influences come together, like Pendulum and Marilyn Manson, and listening to the hilarious lyrics. They were great, real good. So I don't know, I'm on the fence. I loved it and sometimes didn't. So it's like, okay.
Come on, Davey boy, right? Where are you landing here? I have actually been pestering the fuck out of Dave. This is like the reverse, because Dave's usually pestering the fuck out of me about stuff. And the one question has been, have you listened to Ghøstkid? And Dave's like, I'm listening to one song. And I'm like, well, there's more than one song on the album, Dave. So
this is the kind of album that could go either way with me.
This is literally the conversation I had with Kyle before you arrived. I was like that. This is literally the sort of album where Dave could easily come in here and tell me that, like, because I know you don't like that Bring Me Horizon made that shift towards the poppier side. You're not down with that, and that is all the way through this fucking release. So, but I do know that you told me that you heard Start a Fight and you really liked it. So I was like, maybe. So Dave, what did you make of Ghøstkid's album, Ghøstkid or Ghøstkid?
Okay, Ghøstkid. I think the main surprise for me about Ghøstkid is how well this is put together for a debut. Like you do not hear a lot of bands or artists drop an album of this quality first time. Like, and I know this guy Sushi's been involved in different bands and Eskimo Callboy, but the songwriting is really good. Another thing that he's mentioned, which you've mentioned, Duncan, is the production. When that first riff kicked in on track 1 on Full, it just blew my head clean off. And I'd heard Start a Fight, and the production sounded huge on there, but it hit me again when that first track kicked in. I was like, wow, this is really, like, the heaviness of that track is fucking, it sounds huge. And if you've heard any of the singles, you'll know what I mean. The guitar sound in particular was just massive. But I thought it was very well balanced, even though it has that kind of serious heft to it. All the little kind of background elements, the synths, the backing vocals, they all sit very well in the mix. Nothing seems overpowered or drowned out. And it sounds great played at volume. Like, this is an album that you want to crank really loud. I had it playing in the car, and it just sounds even better when you crank it really loud. I think vocally, this is probably the best he's ever sounded. I went back and listened to some of his older work with Eskimo Callboy.
It's not very good in parts.
Some of it's alright, some of it's not great. But I kind of feel like he might have been holding back a little. I know, like he mentioned that he was a little uncomfortable in Eskimo Callboy, and he said that he needed a change, but when you listen to this album, he sounds like a different artist. He's definitely pushed his vocals to that next level in comparison to what he did with his previous band. And musically, whilst it still sits within metal, it doesn't sound like Eskimo Callboy either. He is obviously a guitarist as well. He was a guitarist first before a vocalist. And one of the other things I really liked about this was the tracks on this album, the majority of them all sound different. Even the first two singles, if you listen to Start a Fight and listen to Supernova, both heavy and, you know, big hooky choruses, but tonally both different sounding tracks. Start a Fight is a much more kind of rock driven feel, a lot of layers and synths and electronics, whereas Supernova definitely felt like a much darker track overall. And usually, like, this is like one of these things that you would usually bounce these ideas off like different like band members, you know, when they're bringing different flavors to the fold. But he wrote the majority of this on his own, and then he brought in the band, which is just like, what? Like, I think that's really impressive. I know how hard it is to write music on your own. We've all tried it and done it. You know, it's a process that you'll continually question yourself and your music. And I think a large part of that is because you don't have other people to bounce those ideas off. He has said in interviews that he didn't do the full thing himself. He did bring in a couple of other guys to work on a few of the tracks. I know Christoph from Annisokay was one of them, but the vast majority of this album was written by him. But maybe that's the way he likes it. Maybe because there's no one else to please, maybe he finds that a more straightforward process. I don't know.
Maybe if he was disillusioned in his previous, but you tend to find that sometimes if you're unhappy with something, it gives you a clearer vision of what you want to do.
Yeah,
you know, like you're working on something. You're like, if only they would just do this, and then before you know it, you've got your own wee thing on the side, and then that morphs into something bigger. So
yeah, I actually forgot that it was German. Like when I was listening to this, it didn't automatically make me think this was a European artist at all.
There's some words he pronounces that are on the kind of German side, like on Supernova, his pronunciation of the word beautiful isn't quite right, if you know what I mean, in terms of he's saying the word right, but there is an accent on it. But yeah, as all great pop art, I'm going to call him a pop artist even though he's doing metal, all great pop artists do, they almost have a weird androgynous sound to their voice that you can't never really quite place. It's like that way where British pop artists don't sound British, they sound like what we class as American sounding, but if anything it's neutral.
Yeah. I thought a lot of this did have a very American sound, but I can hear what you're saying about the Scandinavian stuff as well. Yeah, there was a bit of that. I enjoyed all the different elements all kind of brought together in this one. While it has a lot of kind of like metalcore stylings, it doesn't necessarily play out like a typical metalcore album. There's lots of electronics, as we mentioned, industrial moments. There's little bits of post-hardcore. There's little bits of new metal in there as well. It has the big anthemic choruses, which will go down a treat in a live setting, whenever that happens. But it's also got a very dark tone at times as well. Supernova, which I mentioned, but also tracks like DRTY or Dirty.
Dirty.
And This Is Not Hollywood as well. It's mainly on the verses that tend to be the kind of darker side of things. He tends to keep the choruses fairly upbeat and anthemic, but I do like when the tracks have that kind of contrast of light and dark. It adds a kind of interesting streak to the album. I did really like the little kind of 80s synthwave influence on the intro of Zero, I think it was. Very cool. It doesn't last long, before like this wave of riffs kick in, but I liked how like little moments of it would subtly reoccur throughout the track. I enjoyed him bringing that little kind of element into it as well. It's got a killer chorus on it. I think that's something he really nails on this. There are very few tracks that don't have an absolutely huge chorus on it. He's really good at writing the choruses. I think there's very little to dislike about it, really. I thought there were maybe a couple of tracks towards the end that weren't quite as memorable for me as some of the others. Crown had some cool electronic moments, but it just lacked something to set it apart. Even with Millie Petroza from Creator guessing on the track, which I don't even know what he did. I know he's a guitarist, but I couldn't have told you he was on the track. It just felt like there was something missing on that one. And the other one was Cold World. I understand why he's included a track like that. It's very stripped back and it has this message through it, but it just didn't do anything for me. But it's followed up with Zero, which I loved, so it did kind of reel me back in after that. So I actually really enjoyed this. It's a very accomplished sounding record for a debut. I think the songwriting is really good and the production is fire. Yeah. Rating wise for the new Ghøstkid album, Duncan, where are you sitting on this one?
I'm a mark for this album. It's a 4.5. It was always good. I mean, the only reason it doesn't get a 5 is I actually think he's got a better album in him. That is literally the only reason. I think I think a lot of what you said is right. This is first swing at a solo kind of writing effort. And he's now got, but I would imagine the next album is going to be a band effort, and that excites me greatly. So, 4.5.
Nice. Kyle? Oh, I'm so undecided. I'm like, I really am. It's like, it's not. You know, I'm just gonna go with 4 because it's actually really good, but it's just some stuff I didn't like. So, but it's a great album. I mean, if you're at a party, you would put this on, and it
totally,
would be
man.
the best party, right? You crank it, and your 5 friends during this day and age would be fucking loving it. So,
Could you imagine this in a live setting?
I would probably lose all of my shit.
It'd be fucking great. You get like, and you're talking about choruses. Every chorus, the crowd sings along and chants, and those fucking breakdowns. It would be fucking amazing. So,
I agree.
Yeah.
4.
Nice. I will join you on that, Kyle. I would go for a 4 out of 5 on this. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Very impressive for a debut. It drops on November 13th on Century Media Records. So keep your eye out for that one coming out. Let us know what you think. Stick some comments in below once you've had a listen to the album. Or some of the, there's a couple of singles out already. Check them out. Let us know what you think. If you want to check them out online, it's facebook.com/Ghøstkid official. Put a link in the description below for you. And thanks for checking out the review. We'll be back with another review very soon. But until then, take care. I will speak to you soon.
bye everyone.
Bye.